And Jody, we'll speak to you later. Okay. Right. Lily, I looked at that form again that I think Michelle edited, and it looks really good as the beginner code thing. I've just dropped the getting started in Docassemble tutorial in a comment there. But I just saw that you were still on this call, so I thought I might mention that. Okay, management stuff. First of all, let's just check in a smaller...
Let's determine, are we recording management meetings or not recording management meetings?
I guess we pretty much only had management meetings before
Yeah.
for at least like a month, and we recorded those. So
yeah,
I think that sounds right. Okay.
Right. Okay. So then, ignore my question about
We're
how
still
you're doing.
recording.
We'll talk about that at the end. Yeah. Sorry, Caroline.
Caroline, you're mute.
It doesn't say you're mute though, so I don't know.
Oh, that's true.
yeah, we just can't hear you.
How about now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
that's
hear you
good.
now.
There we go.
Okay, I have these plug-in speakers because I can't hear the speaker. My stupid. Anyway, never mind. Do you want me to be part of this, or do you want me to drop out?
Well, we had one really actionable thing that we were talking about this morning, right, David?
Yeah.
I know you had mentioned having another backlog of forms a while ago when I was looking for stuff for my class. Do you still, if we're thinking ahead, we don't have to be stuck with the courts list, which are mostly really complex forms.
Yeah.
So if you think there are any that you wanted to flag.
Well,
that
we have
consider.
that one I sent you that Mariah put together.
After I just mentioned I was thinking that's probably the next one we should do.
I think that would because it's COVID-19 related as
Can you
well.
let us in on what this mystery form is?
Well, we did talk about it on one of these calls already. So, but I know which one that Caroline's talking about right away, which is the motion to dismiss because it's not an emergency eviction.
Right.
Got ya.
That seems topical and good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me think about that. I'm thinking that because it's urgent and it's relatively small and we don't have a good example of someone doing a docx, maybe I should just do that one.
Maybe that could be the template example to show people.
Yeah.
For
We ride
tomorrow.
along, we record that we'll work on there, and we can also have, maybe, I don't know if this would work for you, but we can invite people to ride along, and I think Kate or Caroline said that they found that very helpful, and I echo that when I watched the recordings that you did on Twitch.
Oh
yeah, I was thinking we could
boost
just double duty it with
people. Yeah.
Sorry,
continue. Timing's hard.
I just heard something double.
I was making a throwaway comment. I didn't have a lot of people watching me live on Twitch. I was just being silly.
Oh.
David.
So I don't think it needs to be a full Twitch, but if you wanted to work on it some now and get it to a place where then it could be the concrete example for Teaching Tuesday, unless you already had a concrete example you were going to use. My point is, whatever makes less work for you, right? I don't like the idea of having you do an extra form. But if you were already going to be preparing something for Teaching Tuesday, and this could be part of that, that seems like a win.
Oh, I think it would probably not be able to be finished in Teaching Tuesday, but we could start it.
Yeah, no, I don't think it needs to be finished. I'm saying you could actually do some of the work during the Teaching Tuesday.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that idea.
Okay. So which form was this again?
The COVID housing motion to dismiss.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a moratorium right now for evictions. That's the background. So people can still file eviction cases if they're emergencies. And this would be saying it's not really an emergency eviction.
How long is that eviction? How long is the moratorium lasting?
August. Is it August 25th or August 18th or 45 days after the governor decides it's no longer an emergency?
Okay.
Whichever comes sooner.
Okay, yeah, then that
Wow.
seems like there's enough runway there that they can be helpful. So
Well, I really want it. We're waiting to get it up there to post an article for people to use.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think we should. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so my understanding is that does Quentin have to do any work on it before Teaching Tuesday, or will we just go for it on Teaching Tuesday?
Good question. I guess at least I'll look at it before then.
Mhm.
Okay.
Did you post it on, it's added as a card on Trello, Caroline, right now?
I think I emailed it to you, but I can put it on Trello.
I do remember seeing it. I just can't remember if it was a Slack message, a Trello, or an email.
I can't remember. I'll find it and I'll send it. I'll put it on Trello. Because it's a docx, where should I stick? Do I stick it? Is there a list? One of the earlier lists in Trello?
I think, will we just be attaching it like the PDFs?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be like the PDFs? It's the document that the code hooks into.
The first, it's really the first list of on Trello. It's the first list.
Does the I
Well,
don't suppose
not the
Not quite
not the
first.
explanation
It
list.
wouldn't be the
but-
one where you prioritize either, because we already picked it. Let me cut it and see.
Add. Let's see your question.
So it
I
does
mean,
need
it's after running through the wizard, right? Because we can't run it through the wizard.
Ah, good.
Sure,
point.
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, it's basically jumping right ahead to that part. That's a good idea.
Okay.
And then the other thing is that I was hoping maybe we could just, I know there's been a couple of, I think Kate's been very good at identifying forms that are easy to automate, that if people are interested in getting into DocAssemble, and we've got the, the 2 episodes of Teaching Tuesday so far, and we've got the getting started in DocAssemble first. If people are interested in just trying to get, trying to run one of those through, there's a couple of volunteer teams that are, or volunteers that are wanting to do that. If we can maybe have those ready to assign. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, ones that stand out to me are like the request for counsel and a guardianship, because that and that I think is actually like important, because guardianships are right now identified as emergency actions, and the request for counsel is a very short form that basically lets the bio parent assert their constitutional right to counsel. And then I would say the motions to modify in the 209A, I know we're staying away from the other 209A forms, but those are real standalone motions that are very simple forms. Those could be good.
And we
Yeah,
just did a modified the court form to make it an emergency motion to modify ex parte, given the instructions that, and we've got an article for it. We've got the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not like a super defined procedure for it, but I think that's the way I would certainly do it, and I think it would work with the court.
Mm-hmm.
And Kate, just to check on the status, did the link go out to folks?
Yes, I did. I don't know if they've used it yet, but I got some replies.
Okay.
They're excited.
Good.
And Laura emailed somebody at A-Task too, so we could try to make a connection at A-Task, because I think it's good to start bringing in some of the more like their Asian Task Force Against Domestic Violence.
Yeah.
I think that would be good to start bringing in culturally specific groups too.
Yeah, so I'm gonna wait till I have a pull request to review on some of those changes that I had suggested, and then I think we'll merge those probably tomorrow, and then I'll probably get it out to Northeastern, and then maybe we start thinking about other places. We have that's also when I'm going to share it with our internal our family law folks here at Suffolk.
Cool.
They have a relationship with, I think, Safe Harbor or
Harbor Cove.
Harbor Cove, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And too much Section 230 on the mind. Yeah, different areas as well. Okay. Yeah. So that might be it.
Yeah. So right now we have REACH, Jewish Children and Family Services. Caroline, what's the other group?
Second Step
Second Step.
and Dove.
In Dove, I hadn't seen anyone from Dove respond to your email before that you had sent that earlier one. Did they ever respond?
I'm not sure.
I can reach out. I can reach out to Dove too.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll keep making our improvements here. The next sort of trigger point that I feel comes after someone actually uses them to file something.
Yeah.
And that'll be our next sort of our milestone.
Are we changing this to be like half an hour a week, or it seems like there are there is usually more to discuss, or are we doing this every, like half an hour every day, or like what the
Well, we had
management-
tried,
Is this over now? Did I miss
management
something?
meeting.
Or I'm just wondering.
This
Is it
just
like,
this
ending?
one issue.
What? I
I
have so
don't
much
think
more to
we're
talk
done.
about.
Sorry,
Michelle,
sorry.
What is happening?
this is the point. This is Michelle's point. Michelle's trying to figure out, are we dealing with everything, trying to deal with everything now? Or at least I think this is Michelle's point. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Are we trying to deal with everything now, or are we spreading it out over the week? Is that their question?
I mean, the question is, what's the schedule,
Yes, okay.
basically, right? Like, what's the pace in the schedule?
I
That's
think
one
we
of my
had said, we were going to try to schedule it to be a Monday, just a one-time week thing. I know that doesn't solve the fact when things come up during the week, but I think if we try to deal with as much as we can during this meeting,
Right. I
Do
think
we-
that's
we'll
a good
see
idea.
how
And we
much
can have it at,
capacity we have.
if there's something that comes up, we can use this week as a trial. If there's something that comes up and it's, you know, we can, because it seems like the stand-ups will get a little bit shorter. We can have the balance of the 10 minutes or whatever it is. I might be naive in thinking that they're going to get shorter. I think there's going to be more problems coming up as people start working through forms and stuff.
Oh,
So
do we have a separate like track for a separate time for like, let's ask coding questions other than once a week on Tuesday, or the stand-ups, or is the stand-ups
So,
it, basically?
I
on
think
a daily basis?
we shouldn't make the mistake of thinking that because we have things scheduled that there's no other times that things could happen ad hoc.
Mhm.
And I think that the idea is to have those happen as much as possible in the Slack channels, as at least initiation. If you have to jump to a video after that, that's, you know, I guess the point is for people who are scheduling their time, they can block off certain times. And then, I mean, I'm not sure if that's actually a satisfying answer, but my vision of things was that basically we have certain dedicated times that things will happen, because we recognize that not everyone can be available all the time. But we also recognize that people can be available at times other than the scheduled times, just that it's not expected that everyone will be. And so for those who are available, I'm talking in circles.
I think we get it.
Yeah.
Like mostly it'll be through Slack, and then there'll be some scheduled times, and after that it's ad hoc.
Yeah, and for the management, at least it does seem like we have two classes of discussions. Some that definitely need the like quasi face-to-face of the video call, that are really high bandwidth discussions, like about planning and what are we doing, which are very different than sort of like the logistical conversations that we sometimes have in other channels, which are just like, okay, here's the list of this, here's the list of, you know, like it seems like this is more, so I guess if we're trying to clarify what this meeting is for, the Management Mondays, it's like a decision-making place as opposed to just a coordinating place. Does that feel like a
Sure.
fair?
That sounds right, yeah.
Okay.
And then also there might be like bigger questions we have to talk about that don't even lead to decisions, but of course, those
Exactly.
are also pretty hard to do on Slack, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe if we I think if we just make sure to raise them, or at least that we know that it's something that needs to be talked about, or doesn't have to be. But I know that there's a couple of things that I'm just trying to prioritize what needs to be talked about. In my mind, the new forms that we can put volunteers on, that's quite an important one, I think. And as I said on the call, I would like to jump on a form as well, either in a team or by myself. And I was thinking of, I don't know if it'll be beneficial because Sinead and Finola are, here, and I'm like a little bit higher. so maybe, I don't know if it will be helpful for me to be able to guide them, and I'll be aware of that, of not feeding them information and making it so worthwhile, or if they should just team up, and then I work on a form by myself or with somebody else.
There
I'm
is
not
a
too sure how
third person that is going to work with them that wasn't able to come today, but that doesn't mean, I don't think that has to be completely relevant to the decision.
Well, so
but I wanted
there
you
was
to know.
a fourth. Not third.
Fourth
There were already
person.
three of
Fourth
them.
person.
Right.
Fourth.
Jody,
And
there's Jody.
Jody
Right,
was
I
on
forgot
the call
Jody.
today, yeah.
Yeah, Jody was on
Jody's
the
the
call.
third.
Yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
that Jody.
There was a fellow named Mati, who's just one of the traditional for lack of a better word, is not a credit seeking or it just is a do-gooder helping out.
Like all of us.
Can I ask
Okay.
David and I are in it for that hard academic money.
That's right.
Big
That's right.
academic dollars.
Big
I always
academic money.
I took a pay cut from being a public school teacher to go to law school, get a bunch of loans, and become a public defender. And then I changed around in the organization. Actually, ended up doing okay at the organization because I was no longer a public defender. I was a public defender, but I was the data scientist. And then I took a pay cut again to go to academia.
Ugh.
I don't seem to go to jobs that pay me more. I don't know what that is.
I'm sorry, Lily, I saw that you wanted to say something.
Yeah, sorry. I feel I'm missing the window to ask questions.
Oh, no, okay, go ahead.
Ask away.
Jump on.
So my first question is a general question. When I joined the call today, I intended to ask specific questions, but then I realized that there are a lot of new people who just started on the project. So I'm trying to hold back. I don't want to jump in when it's their opportunity to speak. So I just said, okay, I'll wait and wait. So, and then I think maybe, did you ask at one point, you said, now we're going to talk about the existing projects. At that point, I thought, okay, maybe we're going to talk about the 209A project. But then I wasn't clear, and then it just flew by. I missed
Sorry,
it.
that's my bad.
So when is a good time for me to ask specific questions on this kind of call?
I think I need to be more aware about that, and we should still have updates on where we are with the TR 209A. And thank you for pointing that out, that I completely forgot to mention that.
So this is kind of where I think it's not clear what meetings are for, because there's a stand-up that's not really, it's a stand-up for people working on specific tests, but it's really a stand-up for fellows and like new coders working on specific tests. And then there's like these little discussions that need to happen. And am I getting the sense right that it seems prohibitive to try and like ping someone in the Slack channel? Like, we hope it can happen in the Slack channel, but that doesn't, seem to happen for everyone. Like, do we want to provide some kind of more formal process for that? And then there's management.
Do you mean to add an agenda item, Michelle? Is that what you're talking about? What is
Maybe
the pinging
add an agenda
Slack?
Or maybe have a form that you can fill out that's like, I need to have a question on this, or just to say like, these kinds of questions are directed, through Slack to this person or something.
I worry about
process.
Yeah, I worry about adding more process.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I think I like the idea of meeting agenda. Maybe I can have a short list of agenda for this kind of calls.
Yeah, I love agenda. I tried to do one for the testing meeting, and that worked somewhat okay. Usually I put times and like how long you're allowed to speak on something, because I used to have, I'm not going to say on the recording. Okay, go.
I also think we can just sort of reframe the questions in the existing stand-up. I think the question always is, what is stopping you from going forward? And the check-ins are we're just checking in with the existing projects because we have to tell them what to go forward. And Lily, your question should be able to be, this is the thing that's stopping me from going forward. I think the thing is, we just have to remember that we don't have to answer the entire question in the stand-up. We can say, okay, I recognize that's what's stopping you going forward. You and you are going to be able to figure out how to answer that. Are you like, does that make sense? I mean, that's I think the original.
Yes, yeah, it does.
So this is actually.
So still bring your questions to the stand-up, please.
Right. Okay. So then I'm still thinking that I should let the new people ask first. Right.
I necessarily think that's, it also might be good. I think if you're asking questions, it might encourage them to be asking questions. If they see that somebody's asking questions. That being said, I mean, maybe do you want to just ask your question now? See if we can figure out what we can do about it.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Thank you. So Michelle is testing the 209A, and she gave me a PDF where it has some issues, and I went through the issues. Like, some of them, I mean, I made a universal mistake where I should, well, I take a step back. The work I did was to add addendum files for different forms. And for each form, we check the field and we say, okay, if it exceeds certain lengths, we say we need an addendum file, and then we feed that text into the addendum file. And the mistake I made was I put the shortened version of the text into the addendum instead of the original. So that was easy to fix. But then there are two issues that I could not figure out what is the cause of it. One is that in the PDF form itself, the shortened text is mapped to the field, but when the PDF is generated, it is still the, I mean, we don't see the phrase that says see addendum, which is specifically added to the shortened version. I'll show you that.
It's not just too long, the text with the see addendum. Like it doesn't fit in the field.
Well, like here, this is one. It's a long text, so I don't see addendum. But then here, that's the one I expected to.
Sorry, Lily, I think, are you supposed to be sharing your screen?
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No worries, no worries. I'm just thinking, like, are we supposed to be seeing something here? Okay, we can see your screen now. Okay, so where can we see the text?
Oh, okay. So let's see. That's what came into the PDF or bound method.
Right. So here, this is that text field, and it is supposed to be, you get a piece of it and then you see, oops.
Oh, there you go. So it's maybe the answer is to strip out carriage returns. It looks like that might or might not be good for that one.
Yeah.
So it looks like our problem there is that there was a new line added. So the character length was okay, but it still pushed it off because
We need to
line.
count character. We need to count white space differently.
Potentially. For a field like that, I might just say we don't allow carriage returns. It's complicated. This is why docx are better. We don't have these kind of issues.
Yeah, but the thing is, I did try this with a PDF in a symbol in my sample interview, and it worked. It did show up in the PDF.
Yeah, it looks like it did pop in here though, Lily, right? Like it just looks like there's an extra line, empty line in between, which made it so you couldn't see that text.
Yeah. And then it wasn't long enough to trigger going on to the addenda.
We could also, I mean, I think for fields like this, we want to show the whole text on the next screen, probably, right? Not for like a super long input box like the affidavit for all the other ones. So maybe we should put see addendum first and then just give like a little preview of the text. That would help a little too.
I think putting seeing addendum first is brilliant, actually, because then even if some of it gets cut off, they'll still see the rest of it in the addendum.
Yeah, and if it's just 2 lines, you don't want to make someone flip back and forth to read those 2 lines again anyway. So we'll always have the full text in the addendum.
How does that sound,
I think
Lily?
that's
Does
the
that make
solution.
sense?
I think maybe I'm not quite sure yet.
Okay.
Maybe that's related to the second issue I'm having, which is that if you see here affidavit, you see it's different paragraphs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this, did you put the full, looks like you put the full text in the affidavit, which I might not do for that because it's like a whole page. I don't know.
So the addendum would just be the balance of the text that doesn't fit into the form.
That's
Whereas
what I
when
would,
you have a 2-line thing, the 2 lines, it'll cut off, and then the whole 2 lines will show in the addendum.
that's what I would do, I think. So you get a little of a flavor of it and the short one, but for a long one, you really don't want to have to read it twice
Yeah.
as much.
To find out where you stopped reading or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think that was your question though, Lily.
Right.
So I'm sorry,
Exactly.
I interrupted
I
you.
mean, okay.
There weren't paragraphs. There aren't paragraphs in the second,
right,
Oh,
so-
in the affidavit.
Yeah, there's a markdown filter that can control how line breaks are handled inside when you insert them into a docx. I also am looking at the PDF. Can we go back to the PDF again? Yeah, it looks like you found the right place.
Right.
You're going to look at some of these options. I think there's one more that is hidden in a whole different part of the documentation. I was just helping someone with this the other day. That might be the one to use, but you can. Oh, this was you, Kate. We were working with this.
Yeah,
weren't
I'm
we?
trying to see what I'm trying to find. I thought we used one of those. Let me see.
Okay. So one of those then it was probably the first place to start.
Yeah. So my question to continue, because I don't know how to test the 209A. I tested this text or this method in my sample interview. First, I tried this one.
Mm-hmm.
And
I found it, Quentin, actually.
Didn't give me anything. Then I realized it says you need to configure this in your server. I said I cannot control that. So then I tried this one, which it says it's the default behavior. But I'll show you what I got.
Which
This is the
server
one that
are you using?
this is the sample interview I used to test this fix. To test this fix. So the first
I did it a different way.
first test I did is to use the P, and I didn't get the text at all. Then I switched to R, and this is what I got. That's the one without pure R. You can see this changed slightly, but I still don't get any line break.
Okay.
Quentin, did you see what I put in the Zoom chat? That was what you had come up with.
I forgot we did a whole different thing, which was to split the text at line breaks. That's because we wanted it to be a number paragraph, which I don't think we want for this affidavit.
Couldn't you just replace, \n with open square bracket BR close square bracket?
That would not do it in a docx file.
Oh,
This
I see.
BR it's not even like a markdown thing. It's just something that Jonathan made that's a shortcut for 2 new line spaces.
Does HTML work in a docx?
Nope. It's its
Okay.
own format, OpenOffice XML.
I see. Okay.
And you don't write in the native format in general.
Okay.
These are kind of shortcuts that do in the background turn it into the native format. But you have the R, you have the slash. So
it's the R thing.
And this is in your own test, and you couldn't get it to work?
Yeah.
So I felt like when Kate and I were trying this, we kind of had inconsistent behavior. You're getting that too. Which server are you using, Lily?
I'm using MySQL Help.
Okay. So let's check the configuration on that server. And that might just be like
or should we just do this experiment on the Suffolk Lit Lab server?
That would be an option too, yeah. But it also might be something that's a bug that we've run into, or the documentation certainly does seem to be slightly out of date as far as what's the current and what's the new behavior. Like I think it says this will be the default soon, and then it is the default now for new servers. So it's like maybe for a year it's been that way.
I'm
You might want to just clarify with Jonathan.
I'm gonna be a bit of a party pooper and ask if this is the kind of thing that we were just talking about, breaking out into a separate conversation as opposed to completing in the meeting. Yeah.
I would agree with that. I don't think we should go into the configuration now. So that's really a next action step item, Lily, I think, is to clarify which ones you've tried, and if it doesn't match the documentation and it doesn't match the configuration that's set on that server, then let's try troubleshooting it with Jonathan's help on the Slack there, the DocSimple Slack.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, Karina, do you know? I thought we should be able to see this configuration on our server, but I don't.
So
Can you-
is this a conversation again that would be separate, that would be
Oh, okay.
after this?
All right. Good. Thank you. Now come back to wrap up my question. So this is what we just need to figure out, and maybe send a question to Jonathan. But coming back to the first question, where it where is it? See addendum. Right, this thing.
That I think that is the best option, is to put see addendum at the beginning.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
show. How can I make it display?
Oh, because we scroll down. If you like highlight and drag, I think you'll be able to see the rest of the input in that box. See, we saw that earlier. You might not have noticed that, but
So I don't need it to fix it, right?
it's
Well, if you-
just a.
Yeah.
I think we might want to strip out line breaks in text that goes into PDF in a short input box like that. That is probably better, safer for people. But I think we also want to put see addendum at the beginning of the line. I think that's 2 changes to make.
Okay, if you could send me in Slack, give me specifics, because I don't quite understand.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So then that's it. For the
Yeah.
rest,
Okay.
I don't know if we
oh,
should.
wait. There's one more
change the
question
text.
that wait, I think it's
Just while Lily looks.
yeah, there's one
Oh, okay, found it.
sorry, just
No
here.
worries.
I got a error. It says method something. I realized maybe I should add a parentheses.
Yeah,
this-
that's exactly what it is. I was going to
Okay,
say.
great.
Yeah,
All right.
I noticed
That's it
that, and I was like, "Ooh, you inserted the function instead of running the function." That's all.
Okay, good. I think that's all
Okay,
my
so
questions. Thank you.
So Lily, who are you going to message on Slack? Is it just a direct message to Quentin? I'm just or should we put it on the channel instead so that we can all weigh in, and the responsibility doesn't fall to Quentin to answer it, and then also that if someone comes to us in the future with a similar
Very good
question,
point.
we'll know how to answer.
Is that all right if I just put? I started to write down what I said, and it can be more of a discussion later. But I'll put it on the assembly line code if that's okay with you, Lily, and I can at you.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that. So what I would, so just as an example, when I ran the kind of Code for Boston volunteer meetings, what I generally do is I would identify the questions people had without going into them at all. So for example, that question would have been, I have a blocker with addenda. And then I would have said, okay, good, and write it down, and then decide at the end, like after we gotten a list of questions from everybody, who's going to work on what with who, right? I mean, with who else? And so like that, just as an example, that conversation wouldn't have happened in one of the Code for Boston meetings where we were very strict about not going into any topics. But I'm not sure that's what we want exactly when we're asking questions in the stand-up, because that's not what I understood the description to be. So how are we handling that? Because we're either like identifying problems and separating them out to deal with later, or we're dealing with problems there, like, answering questions and delving into code and things like that.
Yeah, I really think it should be more of the delegating out if we're going to keep it to stand up.
And who is in charge of like interrupting people and stopping them from talking for the,
You did so
No.
good now, Michelle.
I wasn't like, if this had been a Code for Boston meeting, I would have been, okay, thank you, Lily. We'll mark that down. You should ask these on the channel and Quentin will respond. And that would have been it. Just so you know, like, it's much more harsh than what I did. So I don't know what, like,
Well, I think
you want my version of it, or?
to the extent that we've had any formalism, the stand-ups are run by the project managers. So if that's a role you want to continue playing, that you're in the right position to do that. Maeve can also maybe share some of that responsibility.
Sure.
Kate,
So
I think
we
we
can make an
stepped
announcement
you
saying
just
that-
into 209A, but I don't want you to get out of your
Myself
comfort
there,
zone.
yeah.
I guess my question is like, I can decide to do whatever I want in life in general. My question
Yes.
is, what do people want me to do it with this situation now? And can we get like a, kind of this kind of like 5-finger, feedback
Well, this is
on
perfect. We're using the Management Monday meeting. This is great.
it. If y'all want, there's a 5-finger feedback methodology that I find very useful for talking about decision making, but we don't have to teach it right now. Yeah, so I'd like to get an understanding of how not just David, but also other people feel about that, because I'm going to be interrupting other people, not just David.
Well, I
So
think the first thing
one
to do is
question
to
I have is
Sorry.
what questions do we think will come up, and who will be able to answer those? Because I think that's a really relevant factor here. So if it's
Sure.
scheduling another meeting and it's just going to be me who's going to answer the questions,
yeah,
I'm a
very
little
aware of that.
reluctant to do
That's
that,
relevant.
because that
Very
adds 10
relevant.
minutes to every task.
Yeah.
Well, for example, something could be we schedule you to have a meeting with everyone and answer those questions there, right? Or we schedule for you and me to have a meeting, or me to have a meeting with everyone and answer those coding questions there, get as far as we can, right? Like, I think I can answer a lot of the like more beginner questions, right?
And there be an order of operations that says any questions you come to a stand-up meeting with, make sure you've asked them in a channel first.
Sure.
I like that. I mean, because it also makes people apply their mind to the questions they're going to have to ask. But maybe they don't have to be so.
So maybe the meeting is just going, okay, we're going to organize who's going to talk with you as an individual or as a group about that question. Maybe that's what the meeting is about.
Well, I do want us to have a little breathing room to be able to do slight logistical planning, right? In the stand-up, like
So give an example for
example I'm thinking about. So right now we've got a situation where we have these multiple projects, these multiple forums running, and we want to be able to check in with people to see where they're at and to decide on next action items. And I don't want all the next action items to just be talk with someone. So I want there to be the freedom to say, okay, next action item is, given that you're stuck here, do this. I gotta be more explicit.
What would be the
Yeah, Kate maybe has something to save me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
I feel like the Suffolk kids kind of aren't talking enough, and I don't want to have like a chilling effect on them. And I feel like I'm worried that if we're going too far and like we're not discussing things, we're not answering things.
Yeah.
Like I want to
Agreed.
I want them to feel like welcome and like they can talk and like
Hoping that
there's
the
value
NUI
in them
girls,
talking. Yeah. So I don't want
the
to have
NUI girls are going to be good at that. Are going to be good at, and that's why Lily, I
Talking?
said that. Yeah, they seem like a lot more open to talking, and I think that Lily, having you as on here, and Caroline and stuff, also asking questions and kind of like I don't know what the word is, like showing the behavior that and I think Michelle's thing is
Modeling. Yeah.
thank you. We can say maybe just briefly, like what is this not diving into the question, and then we have a look at whether it's something that we could be quick fix, like Quentin's quick fix with the parentheses, or whether it's going to be something that's going to take a longer discussion. But I do echo Kate's sentiments that they're very quiet. What have you done
Yeah.
to them?
So
Okay, well, they're stuck
So
in
the-
student mode.
so that's
I was there.
so the thing is, I have this feeling that part of the answers to the oh, we have this question, we can't answer it right now, is always going to be, okay, let's have a meeting about student questions. Like, let's have a meeting specifically for student questions. And if that's the case, should we not just have a meeting for student questions? That's not the stand-up meeting.
So
like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we had envisioned the first part of Teaching Tuesdays as being an explicit get through code questions bet.
But they're having daily questions, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So
Which I've been taking, by the way. I've been meeting at least an hour every day last week. And this week already I met with someone.
And the feedback that I've gotten from that is that it's very helpful. What, you know, they're like, oh, I was so stuck on something, and then Quentin just came in and helped me. And
That's
been
awesome. Could it be more of a group, like instead of one-on-one at the moment, kind of like building up the questions to address as a group during the day, so that you're not kind of pulled into individual meetings each time, and so other people benefit from seeing, you know, what problems come up?
It kind of be like office hours, right?
Yeah,
Well, office hours, but with yeah, like
This is
the
what-
kind that
yeah.
we were having with Doc Assemble earlier in last year or something.
yep. I think that's probably what Caroline's referring to too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think that, yes, we could definitely do that. I don't know. So I'm not in the psychology of the students. I think that's part of the thing to consider is, so they haven't mostly been one-on-one. It's mostly been teams have been coming with questions.
That's the good thing
Oh,
about
that's
setting people-
awesome.
I think
Yeah.
that's the really good thing about setting people up as teams, because you never learn so well as when you're trying to work to, you know, answer it for yourself or working as a team, so one person understands it, and then you know, and then and sometimes in trying to work through one person explaining it, that person who's trying to explain gets it. So it does sound like that would be, the teams is a great idea, you know, to help people get somewhere first. And then as long as they work together well in teams instead of compete with each other.
I think the nature that I've seen thus far is that they're very collaborative. Not your typical competitive law student, but that is something that, you know, remains to be seen. And also, I think, as David said in the earlier stand-up, is that this isn't set. You know, these aren't going to now. These teams are just for this form. You know, this isn't going to be your team for the summer necessarily. So it could be we switch them around now, and we you know, mix and mingle. I'm really aware of the fact that Sinead and Finola are going to be in my time zone.
Yeah.
And
That's
how
a
we
really-
deal with that.
Yeah. I also really don't want them. I want them to feel like part of a larger team.
That's exactly the thing. So
Yeah, that's true. That's part of the cultural exchange that we're hoping for, was to
So
well, time zone wise, it's just being
Time zone is
you're
tough.
still getting the cultural exchange. I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the thing is that
They're not getting the Boston.
allow it
the
to be
Boston feel.
organic in terms of teams, you know, because also you don't want to force people to work together who may not, we're not working on organizational dynamics or anything, right? We're just trying to get this thing done and give them cultural competency. So they know that they're 5 hours ahead, and people who want to work together, they have a chance to work together. And the same thing with particular forms that may be attractive to some people and not so much to others. I wouldn't worry too much about a sort of artificial construct. You start them off, they all get to the same point, and then say, okay, here's this. I do think those first teams, they don't speak up very much. And that's, I mean, I think that's worrying in lots of different levels. Maybe
It might be. It might be
reason to team them up with the Irish girls.
I can't remember what I was going to say.
I just feel like the energy that comes from them is that they're not in that, and then David's right that they're in the student mindset, and I remember being there as well. You don't want to be the first person to speak up. You don't want to be that person, the gunner. No one likes the gunner. So I think maybe, you know, it has only been their first week, and I'm thinking, and also when we get them into smaller groups, no problem. It's when
that was going to be my question.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
They had been pretty active in the meetings I had, but
smaller,
Yeah. And on the Friday when only a couple of folks stayed around, that worked out well too.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not sure. Like the kind of meeting that I thought the stand-ups were, like at the beginning are the kind of things that I did at Code for Boston that went, you know, these are the these are the things we need to get done, and these are the groups that are going to do them. Go forth, right?
Yeah.
And so, and the kind of things that we're describing with, you know, working with the students is more like the breakout groups we would do, which would, you know, go at those tasks.
Yeah.
So I kind of find myself unsure when, like, what people want out of these and how to direct those, like,
Well, that's fair.
how, you know, so.
I think my initial inclination is that I want them to be like stand-up meetings, but I also recognize that we don't have any opportunity for normal personal engagement. And so I want them to sort of serve a little something more as a, you know, this was the thing we explicitly did. We were like, oh, we want more people to come. And then we got a bunch of captive folks that I could tell to come, and they all have to come.
Yeah.
But
Do
that
we-
doesn't necessarily make it magically do what we want it to do.
do we say everybody come with a, like, discovery that you have made today, you know, or that you made, you know, between the last stand-up, and then people share on that there's just,
Interesting change.
you
Yeah,
know,
I like
so there's something
refocus it to-
specific that's not a, let's spend half an hour on this problem, or let's, like, not spend half an hour on this problem because it's too complex, but more of a sharing out, and then have the more business end of things have that kind of split into action items and breakout groups.
So are you envisioning something like there's a traditional, what we're actually are articulating as, you know, a traditional stand-up meeting, which is like blockers, okay, you talk to who, you talk to who, you talk to who, and then, okay, now it's show and tell.
I was actually thinking the other way around, but yeah.
Then you show and tell and then blockers.
Yeah, like, this is what I've discovered and this is what I'm blocked on, you know, because I think it might, I don't know. I think it might be easier, I could be wrong, to, like, say
Mhm.
something positive first before you say something negative, but I
That's a good
could,
point.
that could be.
I hadn't
could be
really
off.
thought of blockers as negative, but that just shows how deep into the rabbit hole of embrace failure and whatever I'm in.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just not what I'm sensing from
Yeah.
the students. So, like, for me, I'm like, yes, let's go at a problem, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's not, I don't think that's where they are. That's my take.
I think we need to watch this week. I'm also very acutely aware of the current climate that the majority of these volunteers are going to be in, and that this isn't going to be a normal, you know, but a lot of layers. This isn't a normal summer, whatever a normal summer is.
Yeah.
So just very aware of, you know, using the Socratic method, calling people out when it might not be the best thing for them. And that's why I think maybe Michelle's idea of, you know, come with something,
I like that.
you know, and as opposed to actually picking on people. I always feel I could never be a lecturer. How do you guys do it? It's so hard.
I'm happy to go, like, raise your hand, thumbs up, thumbs down. I think people respond much better to, like, a clear ask and a clear directions when they're in that kind of situation and used to being directed. That's just how people come out of education, is being used to, I don't know, that's how I've seen people come out of education. They,
Okay.
you know, they're ready to be told what to do and to follow those instructions, right? And to, I don't know, that's how I've seen a lot of people.
Well, I think, yeah, anybody starting their first job, generally, what's my next step? That's a thing that happens.
Yeah.
It's not as easy or natural to ask that if you're not in the same place.
Yeah.
I'm just aware we've got 20 minutes left that before Michelle and I have another meeting with Jody. And there's a couple of things that were on the channel that I wanted to talk about, and I can't remember what they were.
Okay, you look those up. Yeah, and we'll
I was curious if Quentin was going to finish that thought.
yeah, that's what I was.
Go ahead, Quentin. Sorry.
And now he's trying to remember what it was.
I started, yeah. That was the problem. Okay.
My bad. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I do like the idea of encouraging people to share. I think we'll have to think about how it fits in to the whole meeting, because if we want everyone to do it, maybe we have people take a turn. We can actually, that's easily resolved by just saying, okay, it's your day to share something for half the group, and they each get a day off of
Or it
sharing,
could be by teams.
or by team. Yeah.
So one team per day.
And then that would
Yeah.
force every team to talk with each other beforehand.
I like that. And it could
Um,
be like share one cool thing you learned, take a minute to talk about it or something. So that solves the time thing.
Or just share anything from your, coding experiences.
Show
Is
and tell.
it sounds like it's a show and tell, or like a progress report. It's
It doesn't, it doesn't have to be as,
no, I'm just
Well,
trying to
like-
figure
like
out.
it's-
Formalistic.
when you say report, right?
Yeah,
like,
no,
I hear so just if we're careful about the
it's
language.
touching there.
I
People are
think you could
touching
call it
base.
a check-in, right? I mean, that's what
Yeah,
it,
that's
that's
the
what I
word I'm
do with
looking
my
for.
students is I don't hear anything from them. They're plugging away. And then every once in a while, I feel like I haven't heard, I don't know where they are. They're stuck, whatever. And we just have these check-ins, just see where you are, what you need.
I'm
and
actually-
sometimes, they get stuck on something, so they go work on something else.
I'm actually talking about something specifically different, because that's what we are doing is check-ins. And I'm specifically talking about something where people share something positive that they have learned, not anything. It doesn't if they want to share something they're stuck on, then sure. But like just sharing an experience that doesn't have to have a next step.
That's what I call check-ins, but
Okay. I thought
Yeah,
you
I think
said that's what
we're in
they're
our
blocked on or something. Okay.
no, that's,
No.
it's included. I mean, it doesn't leave out blockers. It's just
I
saying,
see.
where are you?
Yeah.
How are things going? But they have to give you something. They have to say,
Okay.
I've gotten to this point. I just learned this. I'm struggling with this. This is really cool. Whatever. It's just all it is. It's just saying, hello, where are you?
Yeah.
A forcing mechanism for saying something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think I recognize that we all have slightly different ideas of what
Sure.
these
That's okay.
nomenclature means, but I like check-in because it does sound less prescriptive. To me, it does sound more open to it's a set that includes both the positive statements and the other.
As long as it's
And
understood
blockages.
that if people bring up blockers, we're not going to go into the blockers. That's the only thing
Yeah.
that I see, because
So
I
maybe-
feel like people might feel shut down if
Maybe the agenda as we do the check-ins, either be the teams or individuals. Everyone goes through, they say, here's my positive thing. If you have any blockers, you mention them. We, as a matter of format, do not address those because we've written them down somewhere. Then it loops back, and then Maeve or whoever then said, okay, these are the blockers we had. These would be well addressed here. These would be well addressed here. Blah, blah, blah. So we've separated them in time, but we allow people to step up and say things. And then it also will avoid us getting caught in the like, oh, let me try to solve it right now, because we've held off on answering it until we.
yeah.
I'm also just aware of the fact that if we're not solving problems in the chat and it gets solved in a call, it should really be at least a comment about. Sorry, Caroline, you're muted.
Yeah.
Can we assign people to write what the solution was, like students to sum up what the solution is and post that as a post in the channel? That way we don't have to do the work.
Yeah, no, that's no. I'm not suggesting
they
that we
have
do
to
it.
and they have to like articulate it. Yeah.
Because otherwise we're going to end up in a situation where the same blockers are probably going to be coming up, and the person who's dealing with them are going to have to deal with them every time. So instead, we can point people to. We could even let me think about how we could do it. Blockers.
But if we had, I mean, this is it's probably going to be. Would it all sort of fall under code, or is that in terms of like the like
No.
uploading the PDF in Wizard? That's not coding, is it?
No.
No, that's
Right.
fine too. That's
I'm
good
just
too.
thinking it.
Other
In a way,
repetitive
it's like
questions.
your FAQs for the project, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Maybe we could put Tyler on collecting those, and at the end of the week or whenever, turning that into documentation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
That's
so we
good.
can make an FAQ and possibly a searchable maybe that's, I don't know. I don't know when it's a good time to or not to bring in a forum, but
Probably always is a good and a bad time.
probably.
I think the problem is trying to find and track down all those things, the living information. That's the difficulty I find.
Yeah.
Half the
Well, the
process
thing
is
is,
we
we can,
created, I
it's
don't remember how
because
to
you're
figure it out.
constantly getting new volunteers, right? And in
Can
a
refer them
way,
to that.
the onboarding stuff has a lot of that, right? But then this is the next step. This is once you're doing
Yeah.
it. And maybe it could be things like, to start off with, the error messages you get. This is, I think that's whole white spacing thing could have a little,
And apostrophes.
yeah, those kinds of things we already know, and people keep asking. So maybe, I don't know if Tyler's the person, but just to record, I don't know how to do that, to go through what's already been asked, or just
Okay.
listen when people have questions.
We don't have to solve the exact
Yeah.
format now. I just want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about what other things we need to.
Right.
I'm so
Okay.
Caroline, sorry.
But I think that's a really good idea, Caroline. And I think that
Maeve, can you capture the ideas we've come up with for?
I'm gonna, when this gets uploaded, I'm gonna take a look. at
Okay,
it.
gonna watch it and then. Okay.
Yeah, I think I have made brief notes, but it's not detailed enough. I think I need to.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was just trying to focus on being present in the meeting.
Yeah, that's a good
Fine.
idea.
This is why we're recording. This is
Yeah,
good.
why we're recording. I forgot we were recording. So
So I think,
That's a
yeah, once
great
it gets
idea.
stopped, maybe tomorrow I'll
you-
have a look and just make the notes on it.
Maybe you've alluded a couple times to multiple items you want to get to. What are we
Yeah,
still
there
at?
wasn't actually, I wasn't actually it. But there was just the one thing about the name of the project. And I actually didn't realize that there was two different names. So there's the Dock Assembly Line project, and then there's the MA Virtual Courts project. And then there's Mass Access.
Well, so there are really two things.
Okay.
There's the dock assembly project, which is the overall project, and that's what everything's actually working on. Mass Access happens to be the output that we're producing at this time, which is the Massachusetts specific forms.
if it helps.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Functionally, I'm not sure how much. I mean, we have infinite freedom and we have no freedom at all. Like as soon as we launch, we launch. That being said, we were careful to keep the actual interviews at a place that doesn't really care about their names. They're just apps.suffolk.lab.
Okay.
It's that Mass Access sort of page that has any branding, real branding associated with it. And I also don't think we're not married to anything, but we are probably going to launch this week if we can ever get the darn papers signed. I know I've been saying that for like 2 months now.
We're way closer.
We are way
actually in
closer.
People's hands to sign.
Yes,
It's a new
and
thing.
I got confirmation today that Suffolk's people, because multiple people in Suffolk have to sign, so it's hard to get it between them. Suffolk's people can electronically sign. They can print something out and then mail it to the court so the court can physically sign.
Excellent.
You have to laugh.
Love to
We're
hear
making
that.
progress.
Oh, and we can
But
have
that's
a
good
live
because if everyone on Suffolk had to sign physically, that would have added several more days to the routing process.
What are we allowed to tell people, by the way? Are we allowed to tell people there's a thing that is being signed, or are we just not supposed to speak of?
Depends
what
on who the
happens?
people is.
Okay.
I mean, we talk on this channel all the time. As soon as the MOU is signed, then we can
Mhm.
start pointing people to the page, and it makes very clear what the relationship between the court and us is, which is that basically, if we have something on the site where we allow you to send it directly to the court has looked at it and said, okay.
That's
Okay.
really exciting. And we
Mhm.
get, that's really exciting. Like all this work is kind of going to be put up.
Maeve, I appreciate your optimism and thank you.
It really is, though. No, it is.
I guess it is.
In a dark week, if we get to launch this week, that would be really
That would be great.
Yeah.
a little light. But I am optimistic, and maybe next week or the week after there. We'll
It'll
see.
be
We'll see.
sometime in the future.
Okay,
By the way,
sometime in the
MA
future.
Virtual Court is a true placeholder. That was just because I needed a name for the package repository
That's
on
just the
GitHub
package
before we
name.
published it. So that's
Okay,
not
so
a brand
it's
at all.
okay. So it's Dock Assembly Line. That's the project that if it's going to get replicated,
Yeah.
people will take that.
Because it's a
Um,
play on DocAssemble. It's a joke. See, it's DocAssemble,
very funny.
DocAssembly
Yeah,
line.
we
very punny, David. You got it. So we've got about 10 minutes left, and I think I'm satisfied about the name thing. Um,
The point is, if someone came up with something better, I would be all over it. It's just that
we
'cause we
haven't
can
yet,
change the
but
pointer, and we
so
can
we can think
redirect
about
if we
that.
needed to, but
Sure,
it
we
probably
can
is going to
think
launch
about
soon.
so yeah, my friend Ron Irwin, he worked for a couple of naming places, or a naming place, and he offered some time on this.
Mhm.
So I don't know what everyone's week's looking like. Maybe he can just spitball some ideas. He is a little bit critical of the logo, which is just, I don't know.
We don't have a logo. It's not
Not
really
really.
a logo.
Yeah,
It's
don't
the
feel-
logo.
Okay, so
It's
you're
fine
open
to be
to you're
critical
open
with it,
to a
because
logo
it's-
change as well.
Yeah, it's just
But
that,
see,
that was,
I
this
liked
is,
it. I like the fact that it's a state, right? And then each jurisdiction could have its own outline, right?
well, they could
so
also
that's
make
what
their, yeah, but they could make their own.
Logo.
Yeah, it is just what we had with what we were available.
Yeah.
Sure.
If something better came along, it would be for something better.
Okay.
Um,
So Caroline, you were trying to say something, and then
I was just laughing about the hand/state.
looks like, and he's from Buffalo, so he like knows.
Well, people don't know the shapes of states that are on there. I mean, we use the state of Massachusetts as well for our logo, and we got so much flack. And it was the same thing as we just got to get the content up. I don't care about the design as long as people can use it. But
Yeah.
there are people who care about that. I'm not,
And the thing that
I'm-
I think is that, sorry.
No, I was just going to say branding is important, and that's something when we have a forever home, that's something that's important. But in phase
Yeah.
2, we don't have a forever home. We're not getting people because they find us on a webpage. We're getting people because they're directly linked from the court, or we give them to an advocate.
Mhm.
Yeah. But also the thing that I mentioned to Michelle is that when I look at a service or something online, I judge it by its website. And I think the website is clean and user-friendly, and it's, for me, I feel confident in that website in the sense
Right.
that it's not done, like in the 99, like the Scrabble website, when like I don't trust that. So for me, that's enough for launching. But it is just a topic that maybe when we move into phase 3 that we can start to have, or
Yeah. And when we move into phase 3, someone's going to have money, and they might have ideas too. So that's just worth flagging.
Okay. So then I think, is there anything else that anybody wants to say, or can we maybe just take a few minutes and just talk about how everyone's doing off recording?
I can stop recording.
Hmm.
Any other business?
No.
Or like official business?